Alright, the livestream is over, and with that, we have confirmed information on both Robin and Boothill's kit. And there is little to no chance of it changing after this. So we can finally get on with our full build guide for these two characters. First in line is obviously Robin. So in this video, we're gonna go through everything. From traces to Eidolon, from relics to Lightcone, her proper rotations, and we'll finish it off with some potential team synergies. So leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and let's get started. But before that, some awesome new characters are coming in the next patch. But do you have enough Js for them? Well, I sure have enough. And that's all thanks to lootbar.gg. It's a top-up platform for games like Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact. With a ton of positive reviews, it saves you up to 20% of the actual in-game price for every item available. And an extra 5% for your first purchase. And the process is super easy. Just go to lootbar.gg, select Honkai Star Rail, select the pack you want to purchase, then just type your UID, select your region, and that's all you need. Just tap on top up now, select your preferred payment method, and boom, you have your Js. It's super cheap, super quick, and it's super secure. It's the best top-up platform in my opinion. And if you do want to top up in your account, we are getting double the currency for our first in-game purchase. Then I highly recommend you check out lootbar.gg through the link in the description and in the pinned comment. Starting off with an overview, Robin is a 5-star physical character following the path of Harmony. Yeah, another Harmony character. And given our past experience with limited Harmony characters, I can already tell she's gonna be insane. She has a lot of offensive buffs that are highly front-loaded. That means she can be really good for speedrunners or players who are into zero cycles. Also, she's a great sub DPS. Her damage potential is arguably the highest among all the supports. Looking at her base stats, decent HP and defense, good attack, with a 102 speed and a 160 energy cost ultimate, which is on the higher end for a support. Moving to her traces, her basic is nothing special, so we're gonna move straight into her skill. She increases the damage of all her allies by 50% for 3 turns, which are based on her own turns, similar to Ruan Mei. So it doesn't matter how fast or slow she is, the buffs will have 100% uptime for all her allies. Next, her talent. It straight up increases all her allies' crit damage by up to 20%. No trigger needed. She only needs to exist on the team. Again, similar to Ruan Mei, and how she increases speed of her allies. You will notice a lot of similarities between both Ruan Mei and Robin. Now this talent also regenerates 2 energy for Robin after any of her ally attacks the enemy, and that includes any type of extra attack or follow-up attacks. It's a much needed ability as her energy cost is pretty high at 160. Now for her ultimate, is a long one and has a lot of factors, so please pay attention. Robin's ultimate lets her enter a Consado state, which immediately lets all her allies take turn, like a 100% action advance. Also in the Consado state, all allies' attack is increased based on a percentage of Robin's attack, and whenever any of her allies attack a target, Robin will do additional physical damage to that target. This attack has a fixed 100% crit rate and 150% crit damage, which you can't really change outside of buffs. Also, inside this state, Robin is immune to any type of crowd control debuffs. So in total, she gives a 100% action advance to her allies, increases their attack, and deals additional damage. Pretty nasty ultimate if I say so myself. But the catch for this is the duration for which the buffs will last, or shall I say the Consado state lasts. And this is the tricky part. The moment Robins enter the Consado state, a Consado countdown will appear on the action order bar, which has a fixed speed of 90, giving it an action value of 111, which is fairly slow, and it's a good thing, because the moment the countdown takes turns, Robin will exit the Consado state. So basically, Robin enters the Consado state, buffs everyone, and her speed becomes 90. And the next time she takes turn, she exits the Consado state. It kind of makes it so that the buffs only last for one Robin's turn, but Robin is extremely slow in that one turn, making it so that her other allies will be able to take multiple turns before she exits the state. Not to mention, she also action advances all her allies at the beginning of the Consado state. Even with the base speed Clara, you should be able to take 2 to 3 turns before the Consado state ends. And if you have a high speed damage dealer with over 134 speed, then they will be able to take 3 to 4 turns before the state ends. And this is even more insane for follow-up attack characters like Dr. Ratio or Topaz. They are usually fast themselves, but they also have follow-up attacks in between. And with her buffs and the additional physical damage, the damage will go through the roof. Also, with so many attacks, they will help Robin regenerate energy faster with her talent, making them the perfect teammates for Robin. Lastly, her technique. She creates a dimension that lasts for 15 seconds. Within this dimension, enemies will not attack Robin. Instead, they will follow her. Pretty unique. And after entering combat, Robin will regenerate 5 energy at the start of each wave. She needs quite a lot of energy, so this does lower her requirements by a bit. At this point, we need all the help we can get. Now moving on to her passives. Her first passive advances Robin's action forward by 25% at the start of the battle. It's pretty much a built-in bond wax set, which lets her take the first turn to set up her skill right at the start. Her second passive gives extra 25% crit damage to all the follow-up attack inside her Consato state, which makes her even more awesome for follow-up attack teams. Finally, her third passive lets her regenerate 5 extra energy when she uses her skill, which is nice. As I already said, at this point we appreciate all the help we can get. As for her bonus stats, after maxing out her traces, she gets 28% attack, 18% HP, and 5 extra speed, making her base speed 107, which is decently fast. Not that she absolutely needs it, all her buff scales of her own turns, so it doesn't matter what her speed is, the buffs will stay consistent all throughout the battle. Now let's look at her Eidolons. Though not a single one of them are needed, but if you do want to hyper invest in her, then her initial ones are pretty worth it. Her E1 increases all her allies' rest penetration by 24% within the Consato state. It's again similar to Ruanme's E1 that gives defense down, which implies that it's a great early Eidolon to aim for. It gives up to 24% damage increase to all her allies, making it pretty worth it if you do want to go for Eidolons. Her E2 just increases all her allies' speed by 16% inside the Consato state, which makes them take even more turns before the state ends, which then results in more damage and more energy restoration, since her allies taking more turns makes her regenerate more energy through her talent. And this Eidolon also increases her talent's energy regeneration by 1, so with this, she will regenerate 3 energy instead of 2 when any of her ally attacks the enemy. It's a great Eidolon but not as worth it as her E1. Her E3 and E5 just increases the level of her traces. Her E4 is more of a utility Eidolon. When she enters the Consato state, through her ultimate, she cleanses all the crowd control debuffs from her allies and gives them 50% increased effect res for the duration of the Consato state. It's great for debuff heavy battles, but not necessary. Lastly, her E6 is a huge self damage increase. While the Consato state is active, the crit damage of the additional physical damage that Robin does is increased by 450%. This attack has a fixed 100% crit rate and 150% crit damage, but after this, it will be 100% crit rate and 600% crit damage. Every single one of her extra hits will do over 60k damage, and that is without any outside buffs. She will literally become a pseudo hyper carry at that point. Though there is a limit to how many attacks she can do, the increased crit damage effect will only trigger up to max 8 hits. After that, the crit damage will return to 150% base. I think it's fine, otherwise follow-up attack characters will just exploit this Eidolon and it will end up becoming way too OP. Still, 8 hits that deals over 60k damage? That's already pretty crazy. Overall, her E1 is what I would recommend at the most. I think that's a good early Eidolon to get, giving her team up to 24% overall damage increase, making it pretty worth it. Anything after that is just your preference. I don't think any of them are worth it. Her E2 and E6 are great, but the rest are just not worth at all. By the way, if you've reached to this point of the video and like what you're watching, consider subscribing to the channel, as it does help this channel grow and motivates me to make more content for you guys. Now with all the explanation part done, let's discuss how we can build her. Starting off with her relics, well, to be precise, there are only 2 stats that she actually wants: attack and speed. She does not need to be blazing fast like Sparkle, but having decent speed will help her get her ultimate faster and allow her to generate more skill points for her team. And for attack, well, she needs a lot of it, at least 4k attack. It not only increases the amount of attack buff she gives to her allies, but also the only way to increase her personal damage is higher attack or damage boost, as she has a fixed crit rate and crit damage. So taking all this into account, the one set that fits perfectly is the Musketeer set. It not only increases her attack, but also gives her a bit of speed. It's perfect for her. But if you already have insanely high attack substats, then the Messenger set can also be great for some extra speed to all her allies. Also, a 2-piece combo of the 2 attack sets can also work, but if you're fully focusing on her personal damage, then the Boxing set is going to be her best bet. The difference in damage between all these sets are not that high, so you can just choose based on your preference. As for her ornaments, well, there are attack based sets like Space Sealing Station set, but they are either super niche or are in bad domains. So for a general build, I recommend either the Penacony set to help with her ultimate rotations or the Broken Keel set for some extra team-wide crit damage buff. Granted, you need to build 20% effect res to activate the passive. You can also use the Glamoth set to squeeze out a bit more damage from her, but I don't think it's worth it. You can see the damage difference here. For stats, you definitely want attack on the body, speed or attack on the boots, attack on the sphere, and energy recharge on the rope. You want to make sure you reach at least 4k attack on her. Otherwise, both her buff and her damage will drop heavily. And some speed can also be nice. I personally recommend over 134, but 121 can also be a decent breakpoint. Here's a quick summary of all the things I just mentioned. You can pause the video to look at it. Overall, building her is not super complicated. She has pretty straight line needs, and one of her best relic sets is the Musketeer set, that most of you should already have quite a lot of, making her fairly efficient. As for her Lightcone options, well, her signature is by far her best. It not only increases her attack, which affects both her damage and her buffing, but also it gives a lot of ER, helping her with her ultimate. Well, what did you expect? It's a signature, of course it's going to be her best in slot. As for the question of should you pull for her signature Lightcone or her E1, I personally recommend going for her Lightcone, because similar to Acheron, there aren't many damage focused harmony Lightcones present in the game currently. Also, her signature helps with energy regeneration, which is a huge factor for her, as she does have a 160 energy cost ultimate. Her E1 is great for a team-wide rest penetration buff, but her signature increases her attack and damage of her whole team. That in turn increases her buff, which then results in higher overall damage output. So both are worth it in my opinion, but personally, I prefer the comfort that her signature Lightcone provides. The 24% rest penetration will only matter if you can get her ultimate fast enough. That's why I think her signature is more worth it than her E1. Apart from that, other 5-star alternatives like Ruanmei's Lightcone is also very good. It gives more buffing and helps with her energy. It's pretty good for her and doesn't fall behind that much compared to her signature. Apart from that, Bronya's Lightcone can also work for the 10% ERR and the extra skill point. The damage buff for the next ally can be hard to pull off without proper speed tuning, but since Robin wants ERR so badly, and being a 5-star Lightcone means higher base attack, and Robin loves to have more attack, that this Lightcone does become a pretty good option. For 4-star Lightcones, well, for this, you have to decide which path you want to take. Whether you want to go for a more damage focused build, where you maximize her personal damage to the max, or you want to go with a utility option, where you maximize her energy gain, so that she gets her ultimate faster. Both are great, so choose which you want. For a damage focused build, there is this new Lightcone that is coming in the next patch. At S5, it gives a huge attack and damage boost to the wearer. It perfectly matches with Robin's kit. The increased damage is only for one turn, but when you think about it, the Consado state from her ultimate only lasts for a single Robin's turn, and all the extra attacks are within that one turn, so this perfectly synergizes with her kit. There aren't any other damage focused 4-star Lightcones right now. All rest of the Lightcones are going to be for a more utility focused build, and for that, Meshing Cogs, the 3-star Lightcone, can be a great option. It generates a crap ton of energy, and since it's a 3-star, you can easily max superimpose it. This Lightcone might not work as insanely as some of the other Harmony characters, as the attacks that Robin does inside her ultimate won't trigger Meshing Cogs passive, and the low base attack of a 3-star will make it harder for you guys to reach 4k attack. But if you can manage that through substats, then this can be an awesome option if you're not pulling for a signature. Other 4-star options are going to be the Battle Pass Lightcone if you really like RNG, or Planetary Rendezvous if you are buffing a physical type character. Here's a simple chart showing the overall performance of all the Lightcones I just mentioned. You can see that even with the 3-star Lightcone Meshing Cogs, her damage is pretty high for her support, and with the extra energy, she can get her ultimate faster, resulting in higher damage output overall. As for the rest, they all are great. It's really interesting to see how close the new 4-star Lightcone is to her signature, but you also need to keep in mind that it doesn't provide any kind of energy regeneration, so you'll struggle to get her ultimate back in time. It can be great for 0 cycles, but for a long drawn out battles, Meshing Cogs will come out on top, regardless of the small damage numbers. Now for her rotations, it's not much different from our first impression video. You wanna opt for a skill basic rotation, and you will get your ultimate back every 3 turns. Here I have 2 charts, one with her signature and one with Meshing Cogs. I factored in at least 4 attacks every Robin's turn, and at least a total of 8 attacks from her teammates inside her ultimate. With both her signature or Meshing Cogs, you don't need any ER set. An ER rope will be enough. Also, if you make a follow-up attack team with characters like Dr. Ratio and Topaz, you can expect even more talent procs from Robin, as they will attack way more often than any other DPS, to the point that you might not even need Meshing Cogs, and go with a more damage focused Lightcone. But that will depend on your team. These are just 2 examples of what can happen in those situations. And lastly, some team synergies. So where can we use Robin? Well, practically everywhere, man. What did you expect? She's a Harmony support. She can be used everywhere. Of course, since she's a team-wide buffer, dual DPS teams are the way to go. The characters that will get the most benefit from Robin are going to be follow-up attack characters like Dr. Ratio and Topaz. Even a character like Aventurine, who is not a damage dealer, but the damage boost and the extra crit damage will increase their damage significantly. Not to mention, with their constant follow-up attacks, Robin will be able to generate a lot of energy, where both parties benefits a lot from each other. And a team like this will be great for the new hunt-focused game mode that they announced few days ago. It is set to arrive in version 2.3. They said it will be a boss battle type endgame, where single target damage dealers will shine. So for that, a team like this will be great. For our other endgame content, the Pure Fiction, a team with characters like Himeko, Herta or Jinuen will be the way to go. I already said this in my first impression video that Robin will be great in Pure Fiction. The 100% action advance to all her allies is stupidly good for Pure Fiction. Other than those, you can also use her as a hyper carry support, but for those situations, I think Sparkle is better. I previously did a full comparison between Robin, Ruanmei and Sparkle, where I go into depth about where each character is the best. So if you haven't checked that video out yet, links will be in the description. All in all, these are all the team variations that I could think of, but if you guys have any other ideas, feel free to share them in the comments. Overall, Robin is a very good team-wide support that excels in crit-based dual DPS teams and follow-up attack teams. So if you are interested in those, I recommend pulling for her. But if you already have characters like Sparkle or specifically Ruanmei, then Robin becomes not so worth it. But those are all my thoughts. At the end of the day, it's your account and you should decide who you want to pull for. I just hope this video helped you get a proper idea of Robin's whole kit design. If you have any other questions regarding Robin, leave them in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them. If there's anything that I missed, I'll add them in a pinned comment. Alas, thank you very much for watching and I'll see you next time.